Okay, so we're working some example problems. Let's try another one. Here's letter B. X squared minus 63 equals 81. You're going to add 63 to both sides. Hopefully you know to add 63 to both sides. The 63 cancels out, and x squared is now by itself, and you're left with 144. Now, this is not the answer. Remember, this is x squared, and we want just plain old x. So the next thing you have to do is take the square root of both sides. The x follows out, just falls out, and then you check your table to see if you have the square root of 144, which you do. It's right here. But remember what I said on the last video. You don't just write 12. In order to show the two solutions, the proper answer is plus or minus 12. And yes, I will count off if you forget the plus or minus, because then you're missing the whole point of finding the two solutions. So there's problem B. All right? All right. Now let's look at number C. Go ahead and write that down. You got 3x squared minus 7 equals negative 34. That's a negative 34. So the first thing we're going to do is get rid of the 7 by adding 7 on both sides. The 7's cancel. You're left with 3x squared is equal to, and you can get some help, I think, if you need it, negative 34 plus 7 is negative 27. Okay? Now, we got to get rid of the 3, so don't forget to divide both sides by 3. X squared is equal to negative 9. Now, let's do the same thing. Square root on both sides, but here is where I want you to stop. Because one thing that you need to learn is that we can never have a negative sign under the radical. You can't, it doesn't give you a real solution. And if you don't believe me, grab a calculator. If you've got one on your desk, grab a calculator and try to put in the square root of negative 9. It's going to give you an error. Okay? So this is not going to be a solution. Even though you've got 9 in your table, it's a 9. It's not a negative 9. So I cannot get any solutions of a negative number for square roots. So this would be a case where your answer is no solution. No solution. Because of that negative sign under the radical. So if you remember anything from this unit, that's an important thing to remember. You can't do it. Okay? That's letter C. Now let's jump into letter D. This is the last one I have for you before I tell you what's going on the back side. Because you may be thinking, oh, Ms. Udoka has lost her mind. That I lost it months ago, so we're going to do something different with the rest of the notes. 5x squared plus 9 equals 40. There you go. That's letter D. All right. Now, up until now, I've shown you how to handle all of your numbers have been in this table. This example is going to show you what to do if the numbers aren't in the table, which is nothing, but I just got to show you. Okay. So the first thing we want to do is get rid of the 9. You're going to subtract 9 on both sides. The 9's cancel. You're left with 5x squared is equal to 31. Okay. We got to divide both sides by 5. Divide both sides by 5. X squared is now equal to 31 over 5. It's a fraction. It's a fraction. Okay? Now, neither one of these numbers is a perfect square root. You don't have the square root of 5 or the square root of 35 over here. Can't do anything with it. So what does that mean? That means that when I take the square root, and don't forget you got to do the whole thing, that means that this number simply stays under there. Now, if this was a 25 and not a 5, then we could take the square root. And you could also write it like this, ladies and gentlemen. It does not matter. If you prefer, you can separate it, but you still got to make sure both numbers have a radical sign over it. So, my answer is simply plus or minus the square root of 31 over 5. If you want to put it in the calculator and get an actual number, you may. But this will suffice for now. So I've shown you, A and B shows you how to do this. Just regular, that's the way all you expect, you should have, answers like this from your table. Then letter C was a no solution because of that negative sign, so don't let that get you. And then letter D, the only difference was it wasn't a perfect square, but you still had to solve for it. Now, if you look at the back of your paper, you've got about 10 problems. Those 10 problems must be complete in order to get full credit for these notes. I need you to practice these problems before we jump into your homework. I need you to practice them. Now, I know you don't have answers or whatever, that's okay. But in order for you to get full credit, when I check your notes in a couple of days, I need to be able to turn over and see that you've tried them and get an idea of where you are. So don't forget that. So now that you have the front page complete, you got a couple of examples to help you out. Surely you put your table down on the front, turn to the back, and let's try a couple of problems.